At these reunions, alumni members or researchers with ties to Japan and their home countries or regions are invited as speakers. Alumni members can rekindle friendship and can also learn about the latest research involving Japan. In addition, information on studying or working in Japan is provided by experienced members and by referred organizations, leading to ongoing exchanges with Japan. Because face-to-face meetings were no longer possible due to the COVID-19 pandemic, a new form of alumni exchange emerged: online reunions. In some countries and regions, SSC members have volunteered as coordinators to launch local alumni associations. This group of coordinators will not only co-host alumni events with JST, but will also conduct unique exchange activities, contests, or competitions. The Side Talk series by Sakura Alumni Association Indonesia and the Job Hunting Seminar by SSC Japan are great examples of this. These original events help encourage exchange among members.
Konnichiwa and salam sejahtera. This is Lai Han Wei, the head coordinator of Sakura Science Club Japan. I'm currently working as a senior scientist in Kochi University, researching on photodynamic therapy in cancer. Started in the year 2014, Sakura Science Club stays committed to the goal of pursuing consistent growth and development in the science and technology, domestically and globally, by serving as a platform that encourages continuous scientific interactions among talented professionals from various fields between Japan and the world in order to contribute to innovative research. We aim to foster further exchange of scientific ideas through our consistent efforts in
Good morning, everyone, our honorable guests, members, community partners, and all participants. Great to see you in the first Sakura Science Alumni SDGs workshop, Unleashing the Power of Science and Technology, the Road to Carbon Neutrality. Hope all of you are in a good condition. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Farhana Ibrahim Shuaib as the Master of Ceremony for today's event. In today's event, we'll have a breakdown on carbon neutrality. Are you curious enough? I bet you are, but before I continue, I will explain more about our event code of conduct. First, participants are expected to use a virtual background during the event. Second, participants are not allowed to activate the sound feature before being instructed by the MC or moderator. And third, participants are expected to turn on the camera during the event. And hereby, I invite all of you to open your camera during the whole event. Now, before we proceed, we will take a documentation session for all the participants. I encourage you to turn on your camera. Okay, so for the person in charge of documentation, maybe Mr. Krishna, please help me to capture the screen.
Thank you so much, Ms. Farhana. I would like to inform all the participants to please turn on your camera and look to the screen. For the next couple of seconds, I'm going to taking documentation picture. Okay. The countdown start now. 3, 2, 1. And next slides. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Next slides. 3, 2, 1. Okay, next slides. 3, 2, 1. And last slide. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. Back to you, Ms. Farhana.
Thank you so much, Mr. Krishna, for the help. Next up, I will explain a bit of SAAI First SDGs workshop. So it's a dynamic, interactive event designed to inspire, educate, and empower Sakura Science alumni networks from all around the world. You'll have the opportunity to connect with diverse individuals, learn from experts, and for selected participants may participate in engaging activities through a focus group discussion session on day 2. And on this session, it will help you develop the skills and knowledge you need to make in your community. However, this isn't just any old workshop. This workshop focuses on one of the most pressing issues facing our world today, on how carbon neutrality could solve climate change. You'll explore the opportunities from the usage of science and technology to discover innovative solutions in order to achieve carbon neutrality. And this isn't all just work and no play. The workshop is also a chance to connect with new friends and have some fun. From team building activities to social events, you'll have plenty of opportunities to bond with your fellow participants and build lasting relationships that will help you make a difference long after the workshop is over. So are you ready to ignite your passion for making a difference in the world? Let's just slide into the first Sakura Science Alumni SDGs workshop, Unleashing the Power of Science and Technology, the Road to Carbon Neutrality. Now, before we begin, we'll present to you our project leader, Ms. Livia Lianasari, who has arranged all of these amazing events. Ms. Livia, you may have the stage.
Thank you so much, Ms. Farhana. Greetings, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure and warmth to grace all of your presence in the first Sakura Science Alumni SDGs workshop. My name is Livia Lianasari. I'm the project leader of this workshop. In this first session, I am very delighted with the enthusiasm from every single one of you. Within only a few days, although our workshop is limited slots, but more than 150 of Sakura Science Club members from all around the world has registered for this event. Today, we come together as a community of bright minds and passionate change makers. We are united by a shared commitment and passion to creating a better and more sustainable world. This event is organized and conducted by Sakura Alumni Association in Indonesia for everyone in presence to gain insights and informations from our expert speakers, which I welcome Mr. Yohei Yagi from Japan International Cooperation Agency in Indonesia and Mr. Rahul Maroju from Sakura Science Club Japan. Before we continue our session, I would like to extend our gratitude to the Japan Science and Technology Agency, GST, Japan International Cooperation Agency, and Sakura Science Club Japan for their unwavering support for us in conducting this event. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to our committee who have dedicated the time and energy to implement this workshop. To all the alumni present here today, I encourage all of you to make the most out of this platform to exchange ideas, insights, and experiences which will help to broaden our knowledge and self-development. Throughout this workshop, we will explore more regarding the relation between carbon neutrality and in order to tackle the climate change issue and how significant the role of science and technology in order to achieve it. Thank you once again for being a part of this momentous gathering. I hope everyone will have a great time ahead and form an even stronger bond between each other. I wish you all a productive and inspiring workshop. Thank you so much. I will give back the floor to Ms. Farhana.
Thank you so much, Ms. Livia, for the warm welcoming speech. Next up, let's welcome our President of SAAI, Mr. Abdul Baitz. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello, Ms. Farhana. Is my voice clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so hello, good morning, everyone. Ohayo gozaimasu, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and all, most importantly, our fellow Sakura alumni across the globe. My Excellencies, to Mr. Kazuhiko Aoki, Mr. Rahul Maraju, Mr. Yohei Kyu, who have spending their notable time and efforts to support our event. My name is Baitz, and I am deeply honored to be and the privilege to stand before you today as the president of the Sakura Alumni Association in Indonesia, or SAAI, Coordinator 2023. Welcome to the much awaited and eagerly anticipated the first Sakura Science Alumni SDGs Workshop 2023. Today, we gather here with a shared vision to unleash the power of science and technology, paving the way towards a sustainable and greener future. Our theme, The Road to Carbon Neutrality, highlights our commitment to address one of the most pressing challenges of our time, the global climate crisis. As Sakura alumni, we are part of a vibrant and dedicated community that cherishes the values of learning, growth, and sustainability. Today's workshop is a testament to our unwavering dedication to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, with particular emphasis on Goals 13, climate action. Our collective aim today is to explore how science and technology can harness to combat climate change, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and ultimately achieve carbon neutrality. We believe that by leveraging our knowledge, expertise, and passion, we can make a significant impact on the world. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our project leader, Livia Lianasari, whose dedication and vision have been instrumental in shaping this workshop. Livia's passion for sustainability and her tireless efforts to create a greener world are truly inspiring. Today, our esteemed panelists will guide us through insightful discussions, presentations, and interactive sessions that will broaden our understanding and empower us to take action. Together, we will explore innovative solutions, exchange ideas, and forge strong networks to drive tangible change through the FGD session tomorrow. As we embark on this journey, let's remember that every step we take towards carbon neutrality is a step toward a brighter and more sustainable future for the generations to come. We carry the torch of responsibility, and I have no doubt that our collective efforts will make a lasting difference. In conclusion, I express my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for being a part of this momentous event, mainly to the main coordinator 2023, and of course, all the inspiring youths of Sakura alumni across the globe, as well as the ad hoc committee and all the promoters involved in the SAAI Coordinator 2023. Together, we will unleash the power of science and technology, transforming challenges into opportunities and charting the path to carbon neutrality. Enjoy the Sakura Alumni SDGs workshop. Thank you, and let's make a difference. I hand it over to Ms. Farhana.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baitz, for your amazing speech. Next up, let's welcome Mr. Kazuhiko Aoki, the representative from the Japan Science and Technology Agency, which is supported by Mr. Aoki. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hana-san, can you see me and hear me?
Yes, we can hear and see you, Mr. Aoki.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sakura Science Alumni SDGs workshop. I'm Aoki Kazuhiko of Japan Science Technology Agency. First, I would like to express my deep appreciation to all of you for attending this event. Since 2014, under the framework of Sakura Science Exchange Program, we JST have invited over 35,000 young people from various countries in the world to Japan, especially from Indonesia. We have already invited around 2,400 young talented people. I'm very happy that the SAAI, the Sakura Alumni Association in Indonesia, holding this workshop as a voluntary activity. The issue of greenhouse gas emissions control is a global collective challenge. Effectively reducing carbon emissions to mitigate the trend of global warming has recently become a concern for various stakeholders, including ASEAN and Indonesia. As the Sakura Alumni Association in Indonesia, SAAI, hopes to contribute by providing a platform for capacity building for Sakura Science Plan alumni networks from various countries, mainly from Asia, through the event of Sakura Science Alumni SDGs workshop. I had opportunity to be involved in low carbon projects between Japan and Indonesia through JST and JICA joint program called SATREPS. In SATREPS, the project that contribute to low carbon with Indonesia was highly evaluated. So I think the setting of this theme this time is very wonderful. We believe that these alumni activities will inspire participants, and you will probably open new and exciting paths for your future life and career. On behalf of JST, we will do our best to continue supporting SAAI, SAI, and its members. So please stay connected with us and Japan. Once again, welcome to this meeting, and I hope that all participants enjoy this event. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aoki, for your speech, and thank you for GST support this whole year. Now, since the clock is ticking, I will again invite all of you to relax, turn on your camera, and we will now move on to the next session, which will be guided by our moderator. Please welcome Ms. Dewi Chaisaria Fitriani. Ms. Dewi, now I pass this session to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Farhana, for giving me the opportunity to continue the session. First of all, I would like to apologize to everyone for not using the virtual background due to some technical problems. And well, good morning, everyone. Now we're entering the main session of today's agenda. Before we start, let me introduce myself again. My name is Dewi Chaisaria Fitriani, and I will be your moderator for today's event. We are really excited to have you all here with us today, as we are going to discuss very important and relevant topics about unleashing the power of science and technology, the road to carbon neutrality. In this session, we will be listening to the speaker's presentation and following with a quick Q&A at the end of the session. Here we already have two speakers who will share the incredible knowledge and experience regarding the field. But before we start, let me introduce them briefly. Our first speaker is Mr. Rahul Maroju, a representative from Sakura Science Club Japan, and also an expert in the field of energy and environment, engineering and analytics. Hello, Mr. Rahul Maroju. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm fine today. I hope everyone is fine too.
Okay, very nice to hear that. Thank you. And our second speaker is Mr. Yohei Gyu, a representative from the Japan International Cooperation Agency Indonesia office, who is responsible for the energy sector in JICA and also an expert in the field of electricity sector. Hello, Mr. Yohei Gyu. How are you?
I'm sorry. Yeah, hello, and ladies and
Hello.
gentlemen. This is the Oniska from JICA Indonesia office. Konnichiwa. So, Mr. Yagyu will be come soon. So sorry for that, but yeah. So he will be present after the huge presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Through this webinar, we'll be discussing various aspects of the power of science and technology and carbon neutrality. And we encourage you to ask any question you may have. So to start with a question, you can simply type it in the chat box. And please don't forget to mention your name, the institution you come from, and to whom your question is addressed. Or you can ask directly to the speaker during the Q&A session, and we will do our best to address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session. We kindly ask that you keep your question relevant to the topic and respectful to both our guest speaker and fellow attendees. We strive to create a safe and inclusive environment for all the participants. Without further ado, let's get started. Please join me in welcoming our first speaker, Mr. Rahul Maroju, to deliver his presentation about project investment and obstacle to achieving carbon neutrality. For Mr. Rahul Maroju, the time is up.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so hello again. I'm Rahul Maroju. I'm a coordinator at Sakura Science Club. And today I would like to talk about sustainable energy policies for achieving carbon neutrality. First, let's start with some basic concepts of energy and carbon neutrality. Carbon neutrality means that the total amount of GHG, greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere, will be equal to the total amount of these gases absorbed. So this means that on the net, the GHG emissions will be zero, and it is said to have achieved carbon neutrality. And for these GHG emissions, energy is the most significant sector involving electricity, heat, and transport to around 73% of these emissions. And to provide this energy, renewables share around 30% in the global electricity production. Now, as we want to achieve carbon neutrality, it is important that we emit lesser and lesser emissions for our energy, which comes from renewables, but they do not seem to have a sufficient share. So is it due to their lack of potential? Now, if you look at the available renewable technologies, most of them have a very great generation potential. You can see it is times global energy demand. For example, solar can, if deployed around the world wherever possible, it has the potential to generate 2,850 times the global energy demand. And we don't need that much, we just need one global energy demand, but this clearly shows that there is no lack of potential in the availability of these resources. So let's try to understand where the problem is coming from. So let's look at how the electricity market works. So there are two aspects, supply and demand of electricity. And the electricity demand, which sometimes called energy demand analogously, it varies continuously with time. As you can see, every day after the work hours start, the energy demand increases, and after the end of the work, it decreases. So it follows a lot of seasonal patterns, trends, but it varies continuously with time. So base load is the minimum amount of electricity which is required to generate, and the highest amount of energy demand is the peak demand. Now, our target supply capacity should be in such a way that it can meet the maximum possible energy demand so that there will not be any blackout or something. Now, meeting this energy demand at every instant is a huge challenge for generators. So what can they do? So one possible solution is energy storage. So if during the times of lesser demand, if there is more generation, we can maybe store the energy and use them at other periods of time when the demand is higher. But this is a very expensive process, and it is not economical to store electricity for longer periods of time. So how to address this challenge? Let's understand more about how the electricity generation plants work. They have two types of costs. One is the fixed cost, which is like independent of how much electricity is being generated, and other is the variable cost, which like increases with every extra unit of electricity generated. Now, the plant is profitable as long as the electricity price in the market is greater than or equal to the variable electricity generation cost. This is because once you have set up your fixed cost, you have installed the machines, equipment, everything is ready. Once you start running the plant, if that amount of cost to generate a unit of electricity is less than the price of electricity, then it is profitable to run. Otherwise, the plant would incur a loss. And these profits for running are later used to recover these fixed costs, which are the initial part of the investment. Now, the average electricity cost for this entire generation will be a sum of all the costs, which is the fixed cost and the variable cost. And variable cost is directly the fuel cost or something, so it is directly available. And fixed cost per megawatt hour is like calculated based on the total investment and the capacity for generation and the annual running time. So it can be seen by the units. Now, at any instant of time, we have seen that electricity demand must be met, but it may not be possible to meet with just one plant. We need the help of a lot of plants working together, and they together help to meet this demand. And you can see some examples of common electricity generators. But the question comes like, what plants are we going to choose, and is there any priority to these plants? Now, I would like to introduce the concept of merit order. Merit order is nothing but displaying all the available generator plants in the order of least cost. On the y-axis, you can see the variable cost for each generation, and you can see the least expensive ones are at the beginning and the more expensive at the end. And one observation is that generally renewables like wind and solar are almost zero of variable cost, because the fuel, which is wind and sun, is available for free from the nature. But however, for fossils, we need some resources like coal and natural gas. And the width of each line will be the amount of capacity available. So this is in megawatts of capacity. So if you have more capacity, then the line length increases. Now, this is the graph showing all the supply generators available. So in economics, we call it the supply curve. And there is another curve known as the demand curve. Demand curve is the amount of electricity demanded, energy capacity required to provide that amount of electricity at that time. And demand curve will almost be vertical because it is not very much affected by cost theoretically. So it's almost like a flat line, but the demand slightly decreases with cost. Now, the point of intersection of supply and in demand curves is called the equilibrium point. And this cost corresponding to the equilibrium price is the market price of electricity. And what happens is that for each instant, after this entire merit order is taken, all the plants which are like able to supply with a price less than the market price will all be selected in the market, and they will all be paid the same amount of market price. And the plants higher than the market price will not be able to participate in electricity generation because the demand can be met just by using these plants. Now, the profit for each plant will be the difference between this marginal price and the variable cost they need to use to generate. But again, this does not involve the fixed cost because these profits again later we use to recover the fixed costs. Now, if the demand reduces, the curve shifts from here to somewhere here, and the point of intersection reduces. So you can see the market price has gone down. So it is according to our intuition, when the electricity demand reduces, the market price reduces. And on the contrary, if the demand increases during the peak hours, the market price is also more high. And that is more advantageous for other plants because they get more profits. Now, this is what I have explained now is a smart market. So these graphs are for every instant of time. So as the electricity demand varies with time, so the market price also varies with time. Now, for investors in a plant, this is like a huge risk because every time the profit, it varies with time and it is not fully predictable. So this becomes an even bigger challenge for renewables because they do not have the flexibility to meet the required demand. So investors are uncertain. And so we come to a concept known as long-term bilateral contract, where we try to simplify things that instead of considering this variable market price, let's fix the negotiated price between the consumers and producers of electricity for the contracted period. And the criteria for running the plant throughout that entire period is that the electricity price should be greater than or equal to the average electricity generation cost. This is because this is not the spot price and for the entire contracted period, and we want the amount of fixed cost invested to be recovered. And it is possible only when the price is greater than or equal to, because only then the profit will be non-zero. However, the trade-off with this contract is that sometimes when the electricity price was higher, but your negotiated price is lower, then you have to forego those higher profits. And sometimes when the electricity price is low, but still you may have to pay higher because you have agreed to the contract. So to remove this uncertainty, but still this decision may help to recover the profits reliably. However, renewable generators are not in a position that their average electricity generation cost is less than the electricity price. So this makes them very unfeasible for investors to invest. So it is not just if the market runs as usual, we can recover the cost, but renewables need some additional support from the government through policies or something. So in the terms of economics, as long as the market equilibrium price is taken, it should also result in the welfare maximization of the society. So everyone should be happy, consumers and producers. But we are facing this problem of carbon neutrality we want to achieve, and we are not going on track with this. So what did we miss? The point we missed is that in the graphs I have shown supply curve, the environmental costs are not are ignored. That is, like, it just shows the fuel cost and we are not caring whether it is emitting something or not. So this is called an externality. Externality is a factor which is not directly involved in the transaction. Here it is the pollution or the health effects which are caused due to conventional generators. And to fix these externalities, there are two types of tools used. One is the price instruments, where you can fix the market price. So instead of the lower price, you add an additional CO2 tax so that the actual cost is reflected. Another way is the quantity instrument, where you regulate the cap itself. So you can fix the total number of emissions at maximum that can be emitted. So these are the two instruments used. And I would like to talk about three types of policies. And first one is renewable energy policies. And some policies which can be taken are feed-in tariff. For example, as I said, market price varies with time, but maybe the government can pay a fixed amount of price, which is called feed-in tariff, and which is, of course, generally above the market price, so that in the long term, the renewables can become profitable. Other way is the feed-in premium, where an additional amount of constant pay is given at each instant of time. So this is called the fixed feed-in premium. Now, if you look carefully here for the renewable generators, it is very certain because they can easily calculate their profitability in the future because they are going to get a fixed price. But for the government, this length, which is the profit, the extra amount it has to pay, this is uncertain and changes with time. So there is no budget regulation. On this hand, there is a good budget regulation that this length is always fixed and government knows how much exactly it has to pay. But the renewables still have an uncertain pay, and if the cost is too low, then even this additional subsidy may not help to recover their fixed cost. So in order to get a trade-off between these two, there is something known as subsidy action, where a feed-in tariff in order to help the renewables will be given to the least cost projects. So They roll out an auction, and what projects can submit, how much cost they require, and a feed-in tariff can be provided. So this also helps for budget control for the government. And the final policy is the renewable portfolio standard, where the government can force that a certain amount of renewable energy must be purchased in the market. And if the system operator only has conventional generators, it has to buy some certificates from the ones who are generating renewable energy. These are called green certificates market, and the prices of these certificates may vary, and renewable generators sell to the one who are using conventional generators. But at the end, everyone should possess a certain share of certificates. Next, coming to energy efficiency policies. Energy efficiency is the reduction of energy used per unit of energy developed. So if you are getting the same level of resource like lighting or something with lesser amount of energy, that means it's an increased efficiency. So if energy efficiency increases, the demand curves shift left, because to meet the same amount of demand, lesser amount of capacity is required. And next is the CO2 policies. And the most common policies are ETS, emission trading scheme, where a fixed amount of emission will be assigned to each party. If you exceed more than that, you need to purchase some certificates, which can be traded by parties which emit lesser. So it's like, on the whole, again, this is a quantity instrument, so that the net amount of emissions is restricted to a fixed value. And another way is the carbon tax, which I have showed. It could be like a direct addition to the actual cost. And the challenge with this is called race to the bottom. So for example, a country tries to put some CO2 policies, it naturally increases the cost for most of the products because they involve some generations. So the industries are more attracted to go to other countries which do not have a carbon tax because they can save their costs. So this is the problem with the CO2 policies. And how is the CO2 price even decided? So if you take the CO2 cost, which is some unit per ton, and on the right side, if you take the CO2 emission, if we fix the supply for permits to a fixed value, so this is the threshold of the emissions you need to get, the demand for permits looks something like this. So the demand decreases with increased cost. And again, the same concept of supply and demand curve point of intersection will be the equilibrium price, which will be the CO2 price. So the CO2, this is how the CO2 price is determined. And again, similarly, if the demand for permits increases, CO2 price increases. And if the demand for permits decreases, the CO2 price decreases. And this is how the final merit order looks after putting some CO2 cost. For renewables and clean sources of technology, the graph is the same, but for emitting sources, the costs increase. Now let's look at a very interesting curve, which is called the GHG abatement cost curve. This shows a list of several changes which can be done in order to achieve carbon neutrality. And the interesting thing here is that the abatement cost for certain techniques is negative. So this means that if you are going to implement this thing, it is going to pay you off in the long term. So it is a profitable action. And yes, it sounds like a good deal. Then why are these not being actively implemented? So in order to bring any action for a sustainable thing, there will be a lot of hindrances. And I would like to explain each of them with an example. Let's take if we are trying to introduce EVs into our market. So the first problem is the cost and financing. So it involves a huge investment. So the consumers may not be willing to pay additional cost for the EVs because they are more expensive than conventional at this moment. And also it requires a lot of investment risk for the manufacturers. And other thing is multi-actor complexity. So it is not just the EVs being deployed, but it also involves a lot of government permissions and need for charging infrastructure, because it just can't be like we roll out cars and that's all, the scheme is implemented. There could be several other things which should be implemented, like the charging stations. And other thing is the physical interdependency. In order for this action to run smoothly, it may depend on something external thing. So for example, EVs require not the fuel, but they require more electricity. So this puts demand, a higher demand on the electricity grid, and the electricity grid must be able to supply this excess energy. Otherwise, the system is not going to work. And finally, it's the behavior. So will the consumers be willing to buy an EV which involves you to charge it regularly? Otherwise, the car doesn't move, and there may not be as many as like fuel pumps available like the EVs. So this may also involve some behavior hindrances. So these are the general categories. For every action, there could be some drivers of inaction. Now, to handle this, it is very important for the government, for every action, it should also put some policies on top of it. And I'll tell you some of the key policies the government can use. First one is financial instruments. So this is like in helping that initial cost and financing, the government can provide some loans or provide some discounts or something like that. So in order to facilitate that the action is done. Other way is the information instrument. So the common example is labeling. So many appliances have their energy efficiency labeling. So we are encouraging the customers to choose like better equipment to reduce the demand. Other thing is the direct regulation. So it is to like reduce or even ban the sale of products which are not meeting some standards. For example, the incandescent lights are being replaced by LED lights. So the government can force some policies. And next is the procedural instruments, where every organization should follow some procedures for energy management or mandatory energy audits, so that they can know how well they are doing with respect to carbon neutrality and always assess themselves, and action should be taken accordingly. And finally, it's the voluntary instruments where the parties can directly do something what they can do, like unmindful of the incentive. And even all these policies are going to contribute to get these actions done faster. However, there are still some hindrances. For example, compatibility. So if you are going to roll out a lot of policies, some of the policies may counteract each other. For example, you have some fixed amount of budget and you want to improve the energy efficiency as well as invest in renewables. But both of these are very different investments. One is like completely you want to phase out the non-renewables, and one is like directly improving them. So these two are going to contradict with each other. So what should you do is the big question. And next one is the completeness. So whenever a policy is launched, it has to like take care of all the drivers of inaction. So there could be some non-trivial things which or effects which could happen due to the policy. So the policy must be made complete that it can be sustainably implemented. And finally, there is an issue of control. So not all the industries can be controlled. For example, the shipping and aircraft industries, as they involve cross-border things. So if you implement something in your country, it may not be applicable for other countries. So this is going to be a problem, how you are going to regulate such industries. So after so much discussion, what have you learned about energy policies? So first we have seen the trade-off why renewables are not increasing, because there is always a trade-off between budget and increasing their share. And another thing is that we often see policies for solar and wind, but we wonder why there are not other sources. Because if you are trying to support the cheaper renewables in order to fit them in the merit order, the other technologies which are very expensive at this stage will not be supported. So it's a question whether we have to support for the short term or for the long term. And the scope is another problem. So all these policies and actions can be done at max at a national level or for a group of nations. But this carbon neutrality is a global issue, and just by doing in one place is not going to help to achieve this global target. And drivers of inaction will come into play for whatever action we are trying to take, and these should be handled using policy instruments. And this involves a lot of like planning and learning from the developed countries, etc. Now, finally, after all these policies available, how are we going to design renewable energy systems? So we have seen that renewables cannot provide at all instance of time. For example, solar and wind have periods of time when they are not available. So during such time, we need to take help from the thermal generators or biomass generators can fill this gap along if they are provided with carbon CCS, which is carbon capture and storage. So whatever emissions we are doing here, we are absorbing them so that the carbon neutrality can be approximately maintained. And also we should try to improve the storage system, though it is expensive and currently they do not recover costs. But if we can store energy, if we have more capacity, this will be very helpful to realize a fully renewable energy system. And the final and the best way, which is currently the cheapest, is the demand response, which is directly to change the demand curve itself, not changing the supply curve. So why can't you incentivize your customers to use more energy during less peak hours and so that the peaks reduce? So only by taking all these actions, we can try to use maximum share of renewable energy possible. But the problem still may exist because we are still dependent on external things. So renewables alone without any policies or without any techniques are never going to lead us to carbon neutrality. That is my point. So as we have seen, revisit the electricity price for the final time. So supply and demand curves, market price is there. But how does the electricity merit order look when there are very high amounts of renewables? So the key takeaways from this session are as follows. The main drawback with renewables not exceeding that around 30% level is due to their lack of availability and flexibility. So they need a lot of support from policies and techniques. And how we have seen how important it is to include CO2 cost in order to rightly give the deserved cost to each and every generation stage. And we have also seen how policies play a key role in order to increase the share of renewables to attain carbon neutrality. And this is the key learning is that even a profitable as well as sustainable option cannot be always put into action due to external factors. So it is very important to understand comprehensively what is happening for every aspect in order to get that into reality. And finally, even in a carbon neutral energy systems, non-renewable generators cannot be completely thrown away. We still need their help at the times when the renewable resources are not available and external storage systems. So it is only with the support of these things. But of course, we can try to minimize the use of non-renewables, but we can't completely throw them out. So my personal observations, like after spending a few years of study on climate change, carbon neutrality, I see this problem as a very complex problem. So it has like so many ways of looking at it. Today, I have just taken some time to look from the perspective of some policies and problems with renewables. But it is like, as you have seen, if I see a statement like, even a profitable action cannot be taken, then that shows how complex of a situation we are in and how it involves a lot of political situation, technological limitations. And so, yeah, it is the first observation. So in order to handle it, let's take a smaller part and what we want to do and develop some policies for that aspect. That would like greatly simplify our action. Otherwise, we would be stuck in this complex problem. And my personal my recommendation to all, especially students, is that whatever may be your field of interest, whatever you study, whatever you like to do, there is always a way to contribute to carbon neutrality. It is key to understand how you can relate this field to your own interest. And that is the most sustainable way you can do something. And finally, it is the consciousness and spread of information. So many people do not have full idea of why the renewables are not working well, why of the carbon neutrality situation. Many people are not even aware of this thing. So why don't we spread this information and the importance of this problem with our friends and family and whoever we can. And because at the end of the day, everyone is going to be a stakeholder for this complex problem. And I thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be happy to take up questions later. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Mr. Rahul Maraju, for the incredible presentation. I'm sure that we learned a lot from the material that you have been delivered. And I guess we have many questions in our head. So for those who have questions, you can type it in the chat box or keep it for a while and ask Mr. Rahul Maroju directly during the Q&A session. Before we moving to our second speakers, I will briefly summarize the takeaways that we got from Mr. Rahul Maroju. We all know that renewable sources in global share more than 30% in the global electricity. And some policy instrument for the government that needs to be concerned is financial instrument like a loan and facility and information instrument, regulation, procedural instruments, evaluation target, and voluntary instrument. But this policy also need to concern on the compatibility and completeness and also the control. Okay, Mr. Rahul Maroju, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Now we are moving to our second speakers, Mr. Yohei. Have you joined
Hello.
the meeting?
Yeah, now I'm joining.
Okay,
Yeah, so
without further ado, please welcome Mr. Yohei to deliver his presentation, which will primarily focus on JICA's energy policy. For Mr. Yohei, the time is yours.
So now can you see my presentation? Not yet?
Yes, sir.
Yes? Okay. So again, thank you very much for your time today. I am Yohei Agu. I'm a representative of the JICA Indonesia office, the Japan International Cooperation Agency. So before moving to the decarbonization action from JICA, so let me quickly explain what is JICA. I mean the overview of our organization. So we're the Japanese Offshore Development Agency. So we're the one of the biggest bilateral agencies. So our activities consist of the 4 elements. The first one is offshore development assistance loan. So we provide a loan in Indonesia. We provide a loan to the Ministerial Finance of Indonesia to build the infrastructure projects. And also, in addition to that, we provide a technical cooperation, the technical assistance to the government entities. Like we provide the training, we provide the support for the development of the master plans, and so forth. And the third one is the grant aid. And the fourth one is the private sector investment finance. So in the contents of the electricity, so we provide a loan or equity to the electricity projects in the private sectors. And yeah, as you can see here, so we have the sovereign and non-sovereign operation. So sovereign operation means the support for the government itself or the state-owned enterprises. In the electricity sectors, of course, it's the PLN, the Pertamina, and so on. And also, in addition to that, so as I mentioned earlier, so we provide a loan or equity to the private companies too.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Could you please make it for presentation view?
Sorry, what do you mean?
The slide, please
you
make
cannot
it.
See?
Yeah.
Oh?
No, I mean the slide, please.
I already shared my screen here. No, not yet.
Yes.
Oh. Oh.
You have already shared the screen, but please make it in presentation slide. I mean.
What do you mean? Sorry.
Please make it into a slideshow.
Because
please.
it's too long. Yeah, the slide slow, please.
Ah, okay. So let me
Thank you.
once again.
Thank you.
Sorry, my system doesn't work now. So let me exit the Zoom first and come back again, okay? So I don't know why, but it doesn't work.
Okay, sure, Mr.
Sorry.
Okay, let's wait, Mr. Yohei. And please, if you have any question, you can type it in the chat box with the format of your first name, your name first, and then you can mention your institution and to whom the question is addressed. Okay, welcome back, Mr. Yohei.
Sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
画面全体で共有で How about this? Now, can you see my screen? The JICA's overview page?
奥さん見えますよ。これで、
見えます。
なんだろう、大きくしてってことなので、
これは、
大きくできれば、下の、なんていうんですか、ベストページ。
Okay. Can you see?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So, okay. So maybe I covered the JICA's overview already. So let me move to the JICA's assistance for the strategy of the electricity in Indonesia. So our main objective of our assistance in Indonesia to realize the stable, the reliable and affordable and sustainable power supply with the achievement of the decarbonization in Indonesia. So let me separately explain about our activities in the renewable energy and also the energy transition ones. So in the renewable energy sectors, so JICA has historically provided a lot of the loans, the sovereign loan, to support the hydropower projects and also geothermal power projects. So when we see the sustainable and the stable power supply, these the hydro power plants and also the geothermal power plants is a base load the electricity sectors. So that's why we are focusing on our loan project to the hydropower project and also geothermal power projects. And in addition to that, so currently we're establishing the new project in the transaction advisory stage for the Waste to Energy project in West Java province. So this is our first transition advisory project in the world. And we provide the advisory services to the West Java state to develop the bankable PPP projects. So in addition to that, we have a lot of the renewable energy IPP loan project, and also the transmission line is also our cover line. And in addition to this kind of the very traditional, the JICA's project, currently we also started the energy transition, the multi-pathway transition plans. So in 2022, the last year, JICA launched our survey for the decarbonization roadmap for the assistance of BLM. And in addition to that, we provided, currently we will start the energy transition master plan and also the co-finance for the decarbonization with World Bank ADB. So JICA support the project, support the PLN and also the ESDM project by standalone basis, but also we have the many collaboration projects with World Bank, ADB, Asian Development Bank, and so forth. And third topic is the capacity development. So currently we will start the dispatch of the JICAs from the JICA to the expert JICA to the MEMR and the ESDM and also PLN. And also we will provide a lot of trainings for them for the decarbonization. So again, this is an ongoing project in power and energy sectors. So as I mentioned, we covered the hydropower projects and also the geothermal power projects. So energy transition. So let me quickly touch on our energy transition roadmap, which we released in 2022. So today I don't touch on the detailed points, but our main point is that so there now, of course, the solar and wind, the renewable energies will be the key for the decarbonization. But on the other hand, if in case of the massive expansion of the solar power plants, the electricity stability will not be good. It will not be. It will be the unstable and unsustainable. So that's why Japan proposed the possibility of the ammonia and hydrogen for the implementation in the future here in Indonesia. So again, so the main message in this roadmap is that the hydrogen or ammonia could be a very good option for the consideration for Indonesia too, as well as Japan. So let me quickly touch on the futures JICA's cooperation in my sectors. So again, so we will provide the energy transition master plan for PLN and also ESDM. So we will help them to develop this kind of the energy transition plan. And in addition to that, so we will provide the experts, the Japanese experts to the ESDM and MAMR to support their transition, energy transition. And in case of loan projects, yeah, we will continue to support a lot of projects, especially for the hydropower project and also the geothermal power projects, and of course the transmission line too. So this is our cooperation. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yoheyagu, for delivering a very insightful presentation. It was really fascinating and we learned a lot, definitely. For those who also have questions, you can type it in the chat box or keep it for a while and ask Mr. Yoheyagu during the Q&A session. Before we continue to the Q&A session, allow me to briefly summarize the takeaways that we got from Mr. Yoheyagu. So for now, we know that JICA stands for Energy Station is about renewable energy in hydroelectric power plant, geothermal power plant, and renewable energy, and also energy transition in of master plan and conference for decarbonization, and also the capacity development of the electricity staff, such as learning from the expert, training, and also site visit. And we know that that hydrogen and ammonia could be great choice for Indonesia in energy transition. Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll start the Q&A session. I will offer the opportunity first to the 2 or 3 participants who want to ask the speakers directly. Please kindly raise your hand, and before you turn on your microphone, please turn on your camera, and don't forget to mention your name, your institution, and to whom the question is addressed. And then please ask the questions in short. And then we also read the question that have already been posted in the chat box. Okay, anyone?
Hello.
Okay,
yeah.
Please, Mr. Eduardo Mamani.
My name is Eduardo Mamani and I am from Peru. So my question goes to Mr. Rahul Maroko. And basically, I got really interested in the concept of the race to the bottom because I've seen that many international companies are sending their industries to developing countries in order to avoid the CO2 taxes, which is not good because in the end, they are trying to get rid of the, I don't know, the Paris Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol, like those are international laws that we're supposed to support the decarbonization. So my question is, what would be like the next step? Because we are waiting for the Glasgow, I guess, the Glasgow for. So how can we avoid this race to the bottom? Basically, because also my country is a developing country, and I've seen that industries just go there, they just, yeah. So my question basically is that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. Yeah, as you have rightly pointed out, this race to bottom is like commonly going to happen because, of course, people are more concerned in economical terms rather than the ethical and social concepts. But yeah, there are some policies which can handle this too. Like I can give you one example. Like if the country, along with the CO2 tax, will like impose some additional tax on items which are imported from other countries. And if that country do not follow any CO2 tax or any CO2 policy or something, then you can impose an additional tax on them so that you can penalize other countries which are not doing that. And also, if you are selling some product from your country to another country which does not have a CO2 tax, but since you have already paid in your country and which is not applicable in another country, they can get like a rebate, which is a partial refund. So like in order to make sure that the business does not go into loss. So like some actions can be taken, but again, like as I raised that we don't know what could be the side effects of every actions and what is going to happen. But yeah, this problem is not an easy problem to solve race to bottom, but some actions may be taken. Yeah, thank you. I hope I gave you some idea.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rahul Maruju. Is it clear, Mr. Eduardo? Do you have another question, maybe?
No, that's all. Thank you. Thank you
very much. Okay, so for the next participants who want to ask, Mr. Rizal.
Thank you for the opportunity, Miss Dewi. Is it my voice clear?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
First, thank you for both speakers, Mr. Rahul Marujo and also Mr. Yohiyagi from JICA. And I would like to ask to Mr. Yohiyagi regarding the technical assistance that Mr. Yohiyagi has mentioned about technical assistance to government of Indonesia. And I would like to know more detail, what kind of technical assistance that JICA provide to government of Indonesia regarding the feasibility of using ammonia or other energy. And also, because I know in Japan right now, Japan has established the concept of zero emission ships, with using ammonia fueled ship and also maybe super efficient LNG fueled ship, and the other energy. And maybe you please explain more detail about that technical assistance. And also, as some of these participants are coming from university as a students, do you think JICA has opportunities for university to have research on feasibility of using renewable energy assisted by JICA? Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. So let me explain about the technical assistance for the ESDM and also PLN. So currently, maybe of course, as you know, the Indonesian government tried to reach the decarbonization target until the 2060. And ESDM and also PLN are trying to develop the decarbonization roadmap. But Currently, of course, they're more focusing on the battery and also the solar power plants. But currently, they're also concerned about the stability of the electricity. So in case of the Indonesia, actually, same like Japan, our climate is not so, they're fit for the solar power plants. In Indonesia, there are many cloudy days and also more like the humid area, same like Japan. And also the land for those kind of the renewable energy, the solar power plants is also limited. So the concept of the solar power plants itself is of course okay, but the implementation for the massive expansion of the solar power plants is a strict consideration. So this is a starting point of our study. So now currently Japan is trying to achieve the decarbonization, not only through the expansion of the solar power plants and also the wind farms, but also we have to also seek for the chance of the hydrogen and ammonia. Currently, the many Japanese companies are researching for the co-firing of those resources in their thermal power plants. So we JICA give the cutting edge outputs in Japan to the Indonesia, and we will look for the chance how to approach the decarbonization through not only the solar power plants, but also those types of the new energies. So apparently the JICA, Japan and Indonesia is in the same boat in the decarbonization, because in case of the Japan, more than 50% of our energy mix consists of the thermal power plants, like coal-fired power plants and also gas-fired power plants. And in case of the Indonesia, you're like around 80% comes from the thermal power plants. So this electricity mix is completely different from the Western countries. So Indonesia and Japan, maybe in India too, we have to look for the Asian models of the decarbonization. So this is one of the key points in our technical assistance. Yeah, let me stop here.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Yohei. Is it clear, Mr. Rizal?
Answering the question, Yagyu-san, and also
okay.
The second question, the last question about the opportunities of university.
Basically, currently the technical assistance is the cooperation with the Japanese electricity companies. So not the university side, so of course we are still looking for the Japanese cutting edge technologies developed by the university. But basically JICA is not a research and development institutions. So JICA is official development assistance. So in this sense, we basically provide the proven technologies to Indonesia. Of course, in the development of the master plan, we also seek for the chance of the new technologies. So I think that's the point. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yohei. Do you have any question, Mr. Rizal? Or is it clear?
It's clear. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Devi. Miss Devi.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rizal. Now we are going to the next participants who want to ask, Mr. Gilang Ananda Putra. Okay, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Dewi. I would like to have two questions to Mr. Rahul Maroju. So the first question, you mentioned in the slide that renewables are not yet profitable. Can you elaborate more? Because I think for the long-term use, such as the PV models, it will be profitable since the price for the natural gas or any non-renewable source keep increasing? And the second question is, what is your opinion about nuclear power plant for fulfilling energy demand in the future? Is it a renewable source? Because I think it's more stable energy compared to the wind or solar energy, which is not always available at any time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gilan. For your first question, yeah, I feel renewables are not profitable at this time in the sense that it involves a lot of investment risk that, okay, it may be profitable in the long term, that we don't like, we cannot assure that they are profitable. That is my main point. I'm not saying that they are not profitable. Yeah, maybe I should use better words, but the problem with renewables is the uncertainty. So you just can't say that they will be profitable for sure. But currently, if you see the electricity price in most of the countries, as there is still considerable amount of fossil fuel resources available, still the electricity using the normal generation plants is like cheap, far cheaper than renewables, except with countries which have deployed a wide share of renewables or something, excepting few exceptions. In a normal case, the amount of the cost for generating a unit of electricity using solar plants is still like higher than most of the fossil fuels. So that is my point. But in the long term, they can be profitable too. But currently, if you see, fossil fuels seem even more profitable. But of course, the resources are finite, so it's not going to be. Yeah. For your second question, can you please repeat which technology you are referring to?
Okay, for the second question, I want to know your opinion about nuclear sources for fulfilling energy demand in the future, because I think it's more stable than compared to the solar and wind energy that is not available at any time. Thank you.
Yes, nuclear is one of the option, and yeah, but unfortunately, it is not a renewable thing. So even it has like finite amount of resources, and more important than that, the technology faces like political issues because a disaster could result in a huge loss like compared to other things. So the risk here is like from the perspective of social cost of nuclear or something. But if you just see from the economics perspective and the emissions perspective, nuclear is very good option. Did that answer?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rahul Maraju. Do you have any, still have any question, Mr. Gila?
I think it's thank you for answering my question, Mr. Rahul Maraji. I think it's all clear for me. Okay, thank you also for Ms. Dewi.
Thank you, Mr. Gila. And no, maybe I will read some question first in the chat box. This is from Biswa Sarma from TU. I have questions to Mr. Rahul Maraju. With solar energy being the highest potential of the energy source, how can the issues with heat and land space and possible degradations be addressed with its potential impact in the agriculture sector?
Yeah, thank you, Bishwas. Like, honestly, I'm not an expert to answer this question, but I'll try to give whatever idea I have. Yeah, I understand that if you want to increase the share of solar, you may need more land and it may cause other problems. So yeah, some possible solutions could be like rooftop solar. So actually, conventionally, a grid is thought like there will be some solar panels which generate electricity and they come to your own house. So it's like they are seen as separate from them. But with the introduction of policies in developed countries, the consumers himself is becoming a generator. So by having a solar panel on the top of his house, like he is providing some electricity to the electricity grid so that they do not have to take more burden using the conventional generator. So there could be such innovative policies which like encourage users to like generate their own electricity. And of course, the countries are subsidizing them for the investment or something. So this could be one of the solution where like instead of we just being as consumers and not doing anything, so our rooftop space is wasted. So this I feel has a huge potential if like many people put solar panels or like something. So it is going to greatly solve this land issue.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rahul Maraju, for the answer.
Thank you.
Now I will go into the next participants who want to ask directly, Mr. Alex Kamaya.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning.
Sorry, this afternoon. It's already in the Philippines. It's already past 12, the lunchtime. Okay, so maybe Mr. Rahul or Mr. Yuhik can answer this question. So anybody from them? Anyway, congratulations to both of them for sharing their thoughts. As we are currently experiencing, especially the detrimental effect of the climate change, so we are also facing intensifying weather conditions or weather disturbances like typhoon. So, you know, Philippines is facing a lot of or severe typhoon right now, and whether other parts of the country, other parts of the world also experiencing extreme drought of the rainfall because of the El Nino phenomenon. So I just want to know, my question is, what are the possible challenges being faced by, you know, these decarbonization efforts that being made, and how do these challenges are being addressed by these efforts? Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, to whom you are a question addressed for both of the speakers?
Sorry. Anybody from them? Maybe
Okay.
from,
Yeah,
again, I
thank
would
you,
just
Mr. Alex.
ask the question. So I just want to know, my question is there any challenges being faced? As you know, we are talking about the extreme weather condition, the challenges of the climate change, the stressors. So I just want to know if what are the challenges, you know, being faced by this effort to make decarbonization effort in the whole world, and what are the possible strategies they made to fight against these challenges, something like that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alex. Maybe I would like to Mr. Yohei Agu to answer the question first.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So the biggest challenge for the decarbonization is about the economic growth. So if we are just focusing on the climate changes, the decarbonization, of course, we should quickly change to the solar power plants, and we should stop all of the coal fire plants and thermal power plants. That's the solution, but we cannot do that. We also look for the economic growth too. Here in Indonesia, of course, now it's a very good timing for the economic growth for the next 10 years. So our main challenges is how to look for the chance for both economic growth and also the decarbonization. So in this sense, in detail, the main challenges is how to retire the coal-fired power plants and also thermal plants. So yeah, of course, this is the main challenges of the energy transition itself. But this point is very important. And actually, it's very difficult for us to explain about your question in the whole or in general in the world, because the situation is very different for each of the countries. Yeah. So maybe, yeah, of course, but at least in case of Indonesia and Japan, so the biggest challenge is how to stop the thermal power plants and start to the renewable energies with the economic growth. That's the point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yohyagi. And for Mr. Rahul Maruju, maybe you can also give your answer to Mr. Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Alex, for the question. And Yohyagi has nicely presented most of the ideas. And yeah, I totally agree with them. But like maybe I can just add from a general perspective, like for all the countries, but not specific. So for every action we are taking, for example, renewable energies, climate change, decarbonization, like the problem comes is that we are all trying to deal the same problem, but the approaches are completely different. So with limited amount of resources or budget, this is like the huge problem what we are going to address. Now, for example, if we are going to face extreme weather effects due to climate, of course, the government should prioritize on like improving the lives of people first so that they can feel comfortable and not extreme, rather than like maybe putting into renewables. I feel this is generally done. So it is always the more the effects of climate change, it pushes our progress far behind. So we are getting lesser and lesser budget for other opportunities to mitigate climate change. So this is my opinion. So it is always the trade-off between different possibilities.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Congratulations to the
Thank you,
both
Mr.
speakers.
Rahul.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alex, is it clear?
Yes, thank you. It's clear for me. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Alex. And next, we're going to do Mr. Brian Flores.
Yes. Well, first of
Okay.
all, thank you to both of you for your presentations. I have a question to Mr. Yohei. Something that caught my attention and during your presentation was this slide representing how the energy would distribute across different sources and how hydrogen could be possible. I mean, that hydrogen was like the big part of at one point, especially in the future. My question was related to that chart, especially in the part like how much certainty do we have that hydrogen is going to play such a big role in the energy? And how is this current status of hydrogen being used, or maybe ammonia? Is it currently working in Japan or in Indonesia? Because, for example, in my country here in Peru, we don't have that source of energy, and it's not developed and implemented either. So that's why I have these thoughts.
Thank you very much for your question. So there, you understand your question is about the possibility and the steps to implement the ammonia and hydrogen. I mean the new technologies, right? So actually, many Japanese companies and also the ESDM and also PLN already started the feasibility studies for the co-firing of the ammonia and also hydrogens. So now it's under the development and the study stage yet. So we are just look at the result of those studies, and then maybe we should talk about how to promote these kind of the new technologies. Even in Japan, now all of the hydrogen and ammonia, the co-firing one is also under the development stage. It's not yet proven technologies. So, but in the maybe ammonia will come first, because ammonia itself is not the sophisticated cutting-edge technologies. So the co-firing itself will start very soon, maybe in 2030. But in case of the hydrogen itself is also the proven technology, but co-firing and also generation by the hydrogen, it's not proven. And one of the biggest challenges for the hydrogen is the transportation, because in case of the transportation, the hydrogen have to be the more than 100 degree, minus 100 degree, more than that. Sorry, less than that. So in this sense, that the transportation technology is very, very important. But when I talk with the Japanese companies, so Japanese companies have the leading in this field, but even the Japanese companies, they said maybe the transportation sector will be developed from the 2040. Yeah, maybe in 20 years. So in this sense, the hydrogen itself will come later, maybe after the ammonia. So this is my point. So, but yes, so apparently in case of the Japan, we Japanese think their solar power plants and so wind farm power plants will not be enough for the development of the Japanese economy. So now we are still looking for the chance of the new technologies. Yeah, maybe do I answer your question?
Yes, I think your answer was very complete and it solved most of my questions. I only have one question left remaining to your last answer. For example, in the case of, for example, that we face an important issue related to the implementation of hydrogen or ammonia, and then let's say, for example, that we can use those as sources of energy. What do you think would be the other big bet related to energy renewable sources? Do you have another idea, or there is another technology that looks promising in this field?
Of course. So more proven technology is, in addition to the ammonia and hydrogen, the more proven technology is the biomass. Currently, the PLN already started the co-firing with the biomass and the thermal power plants. So it will come first, and second will be the ammonia, and third will be the hydrogen. Maybe this is a basic assumption for the new technologies. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yohei, and also Mr. Brian. Now we're going to move to the chat box first. This is from Mr. Ramesh Prasad Badoni. Significantly reducing the threat of global warming and its associated consequence. Explain how can it will be in developing nation. I'm sorry, Mr. Ramesh, to whom this question is addressed.
Hello, this is
Hello.
Ramesh from India.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? My question goes to Rahul.
Okay. Okay, please, Mr. Rahul.
Sorry, Devi, can you please repeat the question? Or Amit, you can ask directly.
Okay, Mr. Ramesh, maybe you want to ask directly to Mr. Rahul?
Yeah,
Okay,
my question is, we people are talking about greenhouse gases, how to combat all these. So I'm just asking because since last 2000 years, but significantly it is not achieving. As my question is, like if we're talking about hydrogen and ammonia, can minimize this kind of carbon emission or something like that. So we do have some other kind of approaches, like in India, we are also thinking about hydrogen, right? Hydrogen energy, renewable energy, but that kind of approach is good, but we are not able to fix such kind of plants or establishment yet in India. So is that kind of processes started either in Japan or in Indonesia? I want a brief on it.
Hey, Ramesh, thank you for your question. I think for the situation in Japan, maybe Yohei-san can tell. But yeah, my comment is that I agree that these technologies like hydrogen and ammonia, these are in the research and development stage yet. So they are like not much developed widely across the globe in most of the countries. But there could be some amount of use, but it is still not very mature technologies. So it is always a challenge for policymakers or something to to introduce these technologies into the existing grid, because we're not very sure. But if you take, like, for example, solar and wind, these are very much mature, for example, in European countries. So it is easier to practically implement them rather than a new technology. So this is my observation. Maybe you, Hassan, can tell the situation in Japan about hydrogen.
Okay, is it clear, Mr. Ramesh?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rahul Marji and also Mr. Ramesh. And now from Mr. Sadusan to both speakers. Considering the available land limitation, please tell your opinion on rooftop solar panels and floating solar panels on water bodies as renewable energy sources. Maybe for the first answer, Mr. Yoheyagi, you can answer the question first.
Yes, thank you very much. So yeah, your question is very clear. And actually, currently the PLN started the solar IPP projects. So now, if you can see the IPP market in Indonesia, there are many tenders of the floating solar power plants. So that's one of the way to increase the capacity of the solar power plants. And in case regarding the rooftop solar, of course, it's also the option. The PLN should increase the capacity of the rooftop solar. But currently, PLN has the regulation to limit the rooftop solar. So the electricity company or the private company just can sell the 50% of the total capacity of the electricity to PLN. So this is a regulation. So if for the massive expansion for the rooftop solar, so the Indonesian government should change those types of the regulation. So that's the situation of the rooftop solar in Indonesia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yoheyaki. And for Mr. Rahul Maruju, maybe you want to add some answer?
Yeah, as Johansson has already answered, I agree with him. And yeah, as I have already pointed out, the similar question earlier. So yeah, rooftop solar would be a very good option. And floating solar panels, like, maybe it depends on the country, and like it should be like thoroughly studied, like whether it can be practically implemented and it can meet the existing demand. And if they are like seen to be like getting profitable by the subsidies by government, then yeah, it should be implemented. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rahul Marju. And next, maybe anyone to want to ask directly to the speakers? You can raise your hand. And this is questions from Mr. Kausik from India. Is there any possible way to react to that carbon emission can react with any other gas particles so that they can lose their toxic nature and become neutral in nature? Maybe Mr. Rahul Maraju, do you want to give some answer?
An interesting question, but to my knowledge, I think there is no gas which can directly like react and make it lose its toxicity. But I heard there are some research going on where the carbon dioxide is absorbed by something, and it is like processed and converted into some carbon molecules. So carbon is like everywhere and it is non-toxic. So kind of like extracting carbon from that carbon dioxide, but it is of course a very energy intensive process and may not be easily implementable. as it involves high investment, I guess. But research, there is some similar research going on, I heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rahul Maruju. And for the next question, from Kishwar Jahan from Bangladesh. Is it technically feasible to fulfill the rising energy demand driven by technology advancement exclusively through renewable energy source? Maybe Mr. Yoheyagi, you can give the answer, please.
This is totally depends on the countries. Yeah. If the country has a huge rich resource of the hydrogen, the hydropower plants, geothermal power plants, and so forth, maybe they can. But if it's not rich, then yeah, maybe the country needs to consider the other options too, like the new technologies. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yoheyagi. All right, unfortunately, our time is up for this session. Thank you so much to all the participants who have actively participated in the question and answer session. Due to the limited time, I really apologize for some unanswered questions in the chat box. And I would like to thank our amazing speaker, Mr. Rahul Maruju, and also Mr. Yoheyagi for the insightful presentation today. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for your active participation through this webinar. It was truly a pleasure for me to moderating this event. As we come to the end of this session, I would like to hand over the virtual stage to our MC again, Ms. Farhana, who will be leading us through the closing remarks and concluding the event. Thank you, Ms. Farhana, and I will pass the floor to you again.
Delightful. Thank you, Ms. Dewi, for the amazing discussions. Once again, let's give a big applause to our amazing speakers for their insights. Now it is my pleasure to announce that we will be presenting e-certificates to our esteemed speaker who has shared their knowledge and expertise with us today. On behalf of our organizing committee, we present you this e-certificate as a token of our appreciation for your dedication and contribution to this event. So first of all, we will give the certificate to Mr. Yoheyagi. Yeah, and also we invite Ms. Livia Lianasari, Mr. Abdul Baitz to join the stage and give the certificates. Okay. And maybe we can also invite Mr. Aoki to join the stage. Okay, maybe for the first session, is for Mr. Yoheyagi first. Okay, now maybe Mr. Krishna can help on capturing the screen.
Okay, I'll start the countdown now. Okay, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Yoheyagi, for your participations, even though it's now public holiday in Japan, but you still manage your time to come here. Thank you so much. And next, we will invite Mr. Rahul Maruju to join the stage and receive the certificate. Okay. Mr. Krishna, please lead the photo session.
Okay, I'll start now. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Once more. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Rahul Maruju, for your great explanations on carbon neutrality. We will meet again tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, now the certificate has been given. Would like to thank you for the informative and engaging presentation today. We hope that you had a great time sharing your insights with us, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And also, once again, thank you to our speakers, and I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. It has been an honor to be here as your master of ceremonies, and I'm glad that I can join the discussions on carbon neutrality with you all. It has broadened my insights personally, and we hope that you enjoyed the series of events that were presented to you today. And having said that, we would like to extend a special thanks to our partner for their generous support. And before we wrap up this event, I have two important announcements to make. First, you need to fill the attendance link as a requirement to get the e-certificate. Okay, and the second one, those who have received the email will be having a focus group discussion session tomorrow at 9:45 a.m. And you can find invitations and team allocation in the email you've received. Hereby, I announce that there will be two topics for tomorrow FGDs, which is the first topic is name 3 areas of potential cooperation between Japan and developing countries to achieve carbon neutrality. Or the second topic is what do you think is the main obstacle to achieving carbon neutrality? You can elaborate one innovative solution to address it with your group. Just a heads up that our study case will discuss about unleashing the power of science and technology with carbon neutrality. And you can share solutions that you propose with your team. Okay, and finally, I want to remind everyone to stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you again soon at tomorrow's event. Thank you once again, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.